Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel for another episode of the route learning series recorded within Train Simulator. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at another route that's available from Alan Thomson Simulation, which is the Liverpool to Manchester Chat Moss route. Dovetail Games gave us the Liverpool to Manchester via Warrington Central route a few years ago, but the alternate route via Chat Moss was definitely a missing link in the Train Simulator world, and it's certainly a very enjoyable route to drive in my experience. The scenario that I'm using comes with the Armstrong Powerhouse Class 800 to 803 enhancement pack, following the timetable of train 1 Papa 13, which is the 5:52 AM Transpennine Express service from Liverpool Lime Street to Newcastle, which I'll be driving as far as Manchester, Victoria. Stops along the way include Lea Green. Now, I'm not sure if this is pronounced as Lee or Lea Green, and I couldn't find it easily on Google, so please forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Following on from Lea Green, we'll also be stopping at Newton-le-Willows. And finally, Manchester, Victoria, with a total journey distance of just under 32 miles. The train that I'm driving is the Class 802 bi-mode multiple unit, which is part of the Hitachi AT300 family of trains. Bi-mode simply means that it's capable of running under the electrification system, which in this case is the 25 kilovolts AC overhead electrification system, but it can also run in diesel mode where overhead electrification is not available. The Class 802s have been in service since 2018 and were designed and built by Hitachi. Due to Hitachi's UK factory being at capacity, the intention was to construct them at Casado Works in Japan, but this was later moved to a factory in Pistoia in Italy. The units were constructed between 2017 and 2020, with a total of 60 Class 802s constructed in 4 different subclasses, varying between 5 and 9 coach formations. The class that I'm driving today being the 5 coach Class 802/2 subclass. Each 5-car unit has 3 engines rated at 940 horsepower, giving a total power output of around 2,820 horsepower. They have a maximum speed of 125 miles per hour when running under electric mode and 110 miles per hour when running under diesel mode. But I should point out that the maximum speed limit for this journey today will be 90 miles per hour. Okay, so now we're in the cab of the Class 802. Let's quickly go through the startup procedure here. So over on the left-hand side, we've got the master key, which is already inserted, but we need to turn it to activate the train. So press Shift and W to activate the master key. And now next to that is the reversing switch. So I'm going to move that into the neutral position. And then when I do, I'm going to reset the passenger alarm by pressing the F key, and then the AWS self-test sequence by pressing the Q key. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to press...
and AWS operational.
I'm just waiting for her to finish speaking. I'm now going to press Control and D to turn on the driver safety device or driver vigilance device. So that's the alarm that goes off every 30 seconds to a minute. I can't remember the exact timings. Just to make sure the driver's still awake and alive, so you just press E to reset that. And now next to that, we've got the combined traction and brake controller. So you've got 4 notches of power away from the neutral position. And then if you look in the opposite direction, we've got the braking, and the braking is much more smooth. So rather than being notched, you've actually got precise control of the braking up to the maximum position. The minimum position is notched, just to say. So you go from neutral to minimum, which is like notch 1, and then you can smoothly control the braking from there. Just to the right of that, we've got the speedometer measured in miles per hour. As already mentioned, the maximum speed for this train is 125 miles per hour. Now, continuing around the cab, in front of us here, we've got the brake gauges. So when we're at low speed, then we're going to get friction brakes. So you can see the red needle there moving as I'm moving the brake handle. So that actually shows how hard the brakes are applied. Oh, I've just accidentally gone into emergency there. But yeah, that shows how hard the brakes are applied, and that's pointing at 0, the brakes are fully released. But that's not necessarily the case when we're travelling at high speed, as the train generally uses rheostatic braking to bring our speed down. So it's a sort of blended brake, so it's using electronic braking down to a much lower speed, and then the friction brake will gradually sort of get phased in. So the way to tell how hard you're braking when you're at higher speed is to use the percentage gauge in front of us there. So I try not to go above 50% as a general maximum, but really I'm targeting 30 to 40% when slowing the train down for a nice, comfortable and smooth stop. Now, in front of us here, we have the speed control, the cruise control, which apparently in real life, according to what Armstrong Powerhouse said, because I'm using the enhancement pack from AP, is actually on this screen in front of us here, but they've moved it in front of us so that it's easier to read. So to turn on the speed set, then we use control and full stop. So that's now moved it to the on position, and now you use the comma and full stop keys to change the speed settings. So for now I'm just going to set it to 15 miles per hour, as that is the starting speed pulling away from Liverpool Lime Street. So we've got a nice big here AWS acknowledge plunger, and then just to the right of that we've got the horn, which is the two-tone horn controllable with the space bar and the B key. You can also change the door mode from guard operated to driver only operated with selective door operation, so that only the doors that are in the platform will open, to driver only operated where all of the doors open. But I should mention that even if you're using guard operated doors with this particular train, which I will be on this journey, you actually still need to unlock the doors yourself manually. So to unlock the doors on the left hand side of the train, you press the U key, and to unlock the doors on the right hand side of the train, then you press the O key. So I think that's pretty much everything that I needed to walk through to set up the train, other than to mention we've got the driver reminder appliance in front of us here, and I won't turn that off until it's time to depart, as you're not supposed to. But basically when that's pushed in, it's just to remind you to check the signal. You can't actually move until you've turned it off, and so it's just a way to try and prevent drivers mistakenly pulling away against an adverse signal. So yeah, now we've set up the train ready for departure, let's take another look outside and then we can depart and head out towards Manchester Victoria. As we depart away from Liverpool Lime Street, the speed limit here is 15 miles per hour with around 10 3/4 miles to go to our first stop, which is Lea Green. And the speed limit here is now increasing to 25 miles per hour. So in a moment we're going to cross over to the left-hand track here, and we can accelerate shortly after crossing the points. We can just see another set of points coming up here, and I'm now going to accelerate up towards 25 miles per hour just as we reach these points here. So I'll increase the speed set to 25. I've got the power in a low setting because I didn't want to jolt the passengers too much as I increased the speed set there. So we're just gently accelerating up towards 25. And now as we enter this darker tunnel, the speed limit is going up to 40 miles per hour, and I can accelerate up towards that at the next AWS ramp. Now going to increase the power so that we can accelerate a bit quicker up towards 40 miles per hour. So we go through a series of tunnels leaving Liverpool Lime Street, and then as we come out the tunnels we go through the first station on the route, which is Edgehill. Also, just to mention, as we depart Liverpool Lime Street, we're actually on quite a steep climb of 1 in 93 up until just before Edgehill Station, and that's where the gradient levels out. And we're now approaching Edgehill. The next thing that I'm looking out for along here now is a 75 mile per hour speed post, which should be coming up shortly, and we can accelerate up towards the speed limit roughly around the 4th gantry, or should I say 4th overhead wire gantry, after passing the speed post, and we've just got the speed post coming up here now. Now around the 4th gantry, so I'm just going to increase the speed set to 75 and increase the power so that we can accelerate more quickly up towards the new speed limit. Diverging off to the right is of course the route towards Manchester Piccadilly, which goes via Warrington Central, which I have covered in videos in the past, but back in my old style PTG rail, shall we say, so I'd be very interested to actually remake a video on that route in the future. We're now coming up on Wavertree Technology Park Station, with around 8.5 miles to go to the next stop. The speed limit's now further increasing to 80 miles per hour, so I'm just going to wait just a few seconds. I'll just increase the speed set by 5 up to 80. We're now passing Broad Green Station with just over 7 miles to go. The speed limit's further increasing to the maximum for this journey, which is 90 miles per hour. So I increased the speed set very quickly there because I knew at this speed the rear of the train would have cleared before we got above 80. Shortly be coming up on, I think it's pronounced Roby Station. Spelled R-O-B-Y. It could be Robbie, but I think it's probably Roby. So at Roby Station that we just passed, we had around 5.5 miles to go. And then we should be coming up very shortly on Huyton Station. Now passing the site of Weston Station with around 3 miles to go. We're now passing Rainhill Station, famous for the Rainhill trials in the 1800s, where they had a competition to find the best steam locomotive. So at Rainhill we had just under 2 miles to go. At the next signal we've got 1.5 miles to go, so I'm going to shut off the power now and allow the train to coast. And I'm going to start applying the brakes for our stop at Lea Green, around the area of the next AWS ramp, around 40 to 50%. Speed's coming off quite nicely here. You do need to take care when stopping at Lea Green, as the platform is actually quite short, so you've got to make sure that you don't overshoot. The next signal coming up just ahead is actually just before the station platform, so you can see that green light just in the distance there. Hopefully you can see it in the YouTube video as well. I know that YouTube's compression can sometimes well, not sometimes, it does reduce the quality of the videos. I can also just see the platforms coming up. I don't really want to enter it any faster than about 20 to 25 miles per hour, so our speeds come off quite nicely here. I initially went up to about 40 to 45% brake. I've reduced down to 30 here at the minute, and we're entering the platform at a good speed. Here at Lea Green we need to stop at the end of the platform. And so we should now be stopping in just about the right place. As we depart away from Lea Green, the speed limit here is still 90 miles per hour, with around 5 miles to go to the next stop, which is Newton-le-Willows. We're now coming up on St Helens Junction station with around 4 miles to go. So we have a double yellow signal here. That signal is 1.4 miles from the signal that would be displaying a red aspect. So I'm going to apply the brakes lightly now to start bringing our speed down. The next signal, if it's displaying a single yellow, means that we've then got 3/4 of a mile to go to the upcoming red signal. So single yellow, got to now prepare to stop at a red signal. Assume that the next signal is red until proven otherwise. The next signal is actually at the other end of the platform of the next station that we pass through, which is Earlestown, and Earlestown station is only around a mile away from our next stop. The red light that you can see ahead is not our signal, just to point out. When I was doing a practice run on this route, I thought it was, but it's actually for a different track. And now if you look in the distance there, you can see a red light, and that is for us, just at the other end of Earlestown station. We also just had a repeater on the left-hand side there, which was showing that the signal is on. In railway terminology, a signal that's on means that it's at danger or red, and a signal that's off means it's clear. So just jumped to a single yellow aspect there. If this does jump to a double yellow before we pass it, then that would mean that we're cleared into our stop at Newton-le-Willows, but there is one signal between here and Newton-le-Willows station. I was hoping it was going to jump to double. Oh, it just did, just in the left of the screen there, jump to double yellow, so I now know that we're cleared to our stop. I'm going to accelerate a bit now, and I'm going to shut the power off around sort of 50 to 55 miles per hour. So I've shut the power off now. I'm going to start braking as we're approaching this next signal here. Once again, we need to take care at Newton-le-Willows, a bit like with Lea Green, because it is quite a short platform, so you've got to be careful not to overshoot. So I've just got some light braking here for now. I'm looking out for the platform ahead. And I can now see the end of the platform, so I'm going to increase the braking. Again, I don't really want to enter the platform any faster than about 20 to 25 miles per hour. So now I'm just going to pull right up to the end of the platform, and that should be about the right place to stop. So as we depart away from Newton-le-Willows, the speed limit is still 90 miles per hour, with just under 16 miles to go to the next and final stop for this video, which will be Manchester, Victoria. So now crossing a junction with the lines diverging to the left leading to the West Coast main line. And now in a moment we're going to pass a neutral section, so I'm just trying to look out for that so that I can cut off the power just as we go through the neutral section to prevent a jolt to the passengers. So we just passed the neutral section there. And now I'm increasing the power once again, and then we're just passing another junction here, which leads from the West Coast main line. At the short tunnel that we just passed through, we had around 13.5 miles to go. So we now pass two over bridges in quick succession with around 12.5 miles to go, and then at the end of the next left-hand curve it's 11.75 miles, and the reason why I'm giving this information is because there is going to be a drop in the speed limit to 75 miles per hour with no warning post to let you know that the speed limit is dropping. So we're now rounding this right-hand curve that I mentioned. At the end of this curve, we've got 11.75 miles to go, and then at the next signal after this curve, we've got around 1.5 miles to go to the upcoming 75 speed limit. So it's now 1.5 miles to the 75 limit. At the next next signal, should I say, we've got around 2/3 of a mile to go to the limit. So I'm going to shut off the power as we approach the next signal and then brake lightly shortly after that, just to ensure that we're down to 75 in time. I've now shut off the power. I'm going to apply the brakes very lightly in a moment. The 75 limit comes into force just before we reach the next signal. We also now have a warning for an upcoming 60 mile per hour speed limit. I've just released the brakes as we're down to 75 and we're now about to pass the 75 mile per hour speed post. So the 60 limit comes into force at the next signal that we pass. So I'm going to apply the brakes in a moment. I can just see that signal ahead. So I'm going to put the brakes on very lightly to bring us down towards 60. Might have braked slightly too early there, but it's not too bad. So we won't be at 60 miles per hour very long before the speed limit re-increases to 75, but we won't be having a speed limit above 75 on this journey now, so I've just changed the speed set to 75 miles per hour. We're now passing 60 speed posts, so I'm just going to allow the train to coast at this point rather than using the speed set. And then in a moment we can accelerate up towards 75 and we'll be at that speed for most of the way into Manchester Victoria now. So now passing the 75 speed post, I'm going to wait until the fourth gantry, so there's number 2, number 3, number 4, and now I'm just going to give us the power to accelerate back up towards 75. So now passing a Morpeth board warning for a speed limit that doesn't apply to us. We just passed through Patricroft station with around 5 miles to go. Now coming up on Eccles station with around 4 miles to go, and we need to keep an eye on the signals along here as we're approaching Manchester Victoria, as from my practice runs I did have some adverse signals, so I've just got to keep a close eye on them to make sure that I do react to the signals correctly. Certainly if you're driving along this section with clear signals, the next thing that you need to look out for is a 50 mph Morpeth board warning, which is just over half a mile from the limit itself, and is only 3/4 of a mile from an upcoming 30 mph speed limit. So you would want to brake pretty close to that warning to ensure that you're down to the 50 and the 30 in time. So we've got a single yellow signal there. I'm going to apply the brakes now to ensure that I get our speed down in time. And we're now passing the 50 mph speed warning. The 30 mph speed limit is actually at the next signal, if I remember correctly. So it means that we did have around 3/4 of a mile to get our speed down. You can now see our signal is the one on the left hand side. It just went behind the overhead gantry and now it's appeared again. I was looking ahead just for a moment. I was like, is that signal for us? The red that I could see ahead? I can see it's for the opposite track, but that is definitely for us, the one that you can see on the left hand side. We're just passing the 50 mph speed post now. So actually we had slightly less than 3/4 of a mile to go then, as it appears the 30 limit is just a little bit after this signal. So we probably had closer to sort of 2/3 of a mile from the single yellow to reach this signal. So I'm just bringing this in for a gentle stop before the signal now, and hopefully it will clear quite quickly. It certainly did on the practice run, like it has now. We've got a green aspect now. I'm going to reduce the speed set to 30 mph because the speed limit is shortly dropping to 30, so there's no point in exceeding that speed now. And we're now passing the 30 mph speed post, so the next speed change will be a drop down to 25 mph. But yeah, at the 30 mph speed post we had around 1.3 miles to go to Manchester Victoria Station. So we're now crossing a junction to the left here. At the next signal we've got around half a mile to go to the upcoming 25 limit. And the 25 limit comes into force just past the next signal, so it's only a 5 mph drop in speed, which should happen fairly quickly. We don't need a lot of distance for that, so I'm going to just brake for that just as we're approaching the next signal. I've just put the power into idle to allow the train to coast. I can see the signal coming up ahead displaying a green aspect, so I'm just going to prepare now to apply the brakes just to bring us down to 25 in time. So we're now doing 25, and we're now coming up on the 25 speed post. I'll drop the speed set to 25 for a moment, just to ensure that we don't exceed that speed limit. As the limit dropped to 25 mph, we had just over half a mile to go to Manchester Victoria. can now see the platforms at Manchester Victoria Station coming up just ahead. The speed limit actually increases to 40 entering the platform, but that's not really any use to us when we're stopping here. I couldn't actually see a clear stopping point here in Manchester Victoria Station. It's a bit of a guess, if I'm honest, though I have been to this station a few times in real life. I've not seen one of these trains in the station, so I'm not sure exactly where they would stop. So I've just got some light braking on just for a moment. Try and enter the platform at no faster than 20. And I think I'm needing to stop shortly before the end of the roof. So I'm just going to pull up a little bit further. You can now see the end of the roof coming up. I've just been using very minimal braking to bring us to a nice gentle stop here. And I think, although I could be wrong, that this is about the right place to stop. But yeah, please do let me know in the comments the exact stopping point if you know it. So here we are, arrival at Manchester Victoria. I just wanted to say thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. For the latest channel updates, you can find me on Facebook with the link to my Facebook page in the video description. You can also sponsor me on Patreon if you'd like to do so, just to donate to the channel, and I will put the link to that in the video description. I'm not sure why the doors decided to close themselves just then, just to add, that shouldn't have happened. Also, if you're interested in my photography, then please follow PTG Travelling on Instagram to see my wildlife and travel photography. So I'll put the handle for that also in the video description. Once again, thank you for watching.